guess because I've been there and I know what it feels like to have a lot of loss. And so when I meet with somebody, I just think of myself as somebody who's, to advocate for them. I'm just there to be compassionate, hold their hand. We're very hand holding in our business, which is very different than, say, a corporate trustee or somebody like that. No offense to them at all, but they're certainly not holding your hand and making sure you're okay in that situation. Yeah, I guess I just think of myself as somebody who's advocating and taking care of them, and that helps a lot.
Welcome to the Open Notes podcast. Our study group includes me, Nora Mortimer, Kiana Gearhart.
Hello.
And our guest today is Karen Schultz, Trustee Consultant. Grab a snack and your notebook. Let's get ready to study. So, first of all, can you introduce yourself and correct me if I said anything wrong in our introduction?
No, I'm Karen Schultz, and my company is Heirloom Consulting. We do trustee consulting and independent trustee work and help families after they've lost a family member.
How did you get into this line of work?
So I spent about 15 years being a paralegal in the estate planning industry, and the other half of my career was in real estate. And I noticed sort of all the missing pieces in the industry and the holes in the industry, and also that it's sort of a slow moving to progress industry. We always do things this way, so let's just keep doing it that way. And so our business is to serve the evolution of this industry and the evolution of the trustee experience. Just trying to fill in all the holes and the missing pieces and move things forward.
Wow. So I obviously going through your LinkedIn and researching you, I think we should go through your paralegal experience first. So I saw that you had an experience with an investigation of a single deceased gentleman with no parents, siblings, or children, and you had to uncover the rightful heir of his inheritance. So how did that happen? It sounded like a concept from a book or a drama. It didn't feel real. So can you explain what went on there?
Yeah. So in Michigan, if you don't have a spouse, children, parents, siblings, then it goes up to the grandparents and over and down their family trees. So that's what happened with this gentleman. He had all this money and nobody related to him. So my job was to create this family's family tree. Well, of course, they had 10 siblings on each side, but then all had kids and had kids and had kids. In the first generation, second generation, they were all deceased by that point. So I just had to piece it together and create a chart and figure out the shares because, this generation got this percentage and this generation got this percentage. It's one of my favorite things I ever did in this industry. I love research. I love finding assets, finding heirs. To me, that's the most exciting part. So this was a really, really fun project, but it took a long time. Probably took 30 hours to do. And then you have to get a hold of these people who don't even know the guy and, let them know, hey, there's some money. And there was some weirdness with that too. Some people were like, who are you? What are you talking about?
Do you know if the same thing happens with debt?
No.
Okay.
Debt, believe it or not, debt a lot of times doesn't get paid. You do final, a lot of times final medical bills, funeral expenses, those kind of things, but always ask your lawyer what to pay. But generally credit cards and stuff like that, I've just noticed that people don't seem to pay those. But that's not legal advice. Just saying.
No, none of this is legal advice.
Not legal advice.
It seems like sometimes, when people aren't getting random amounts of money, it could be a depressing business because you're working with people who have passed. How do you kind of remove yourself from the situation these families are in?
Well, that's a good question. I guess because I've been there and I know what it feels like to have a lot of loss. And so when I meet with somebody, I just think of myself as somebody who's, to advocate for them. I'm just there to be compassionate, hold their hand, we're very hand-holding in our business, which is very different than, say, a corporate trustee or somebody like that. No offense to them at all, but they're certainly not holding your hand and making sure you're okay in that situation. So yeah, I guess I just think of myself as somebody who's advocating and taking care of them, and that helps a lot. They cry,
Yeah.
but that's normal.
Yeah.
I have a friend whose parents are paying for their funeral already, and they have insurance on insurance for like the casket. And I guess my question really is, you know, death is so final for the people who die, but
Yeah.
what does it mean for those around us? What are we missing? What do we have to prepare for when someone dies?
In other words, as the person who's still alive after somebody you love dies,
Yeah,
well, hopefully you'll make sure they're prepared before they die. I mean, to me, that's the biggest thing. People collect and collect and collect, and you can help them along the way to become organized, get rid of heavy books and things that you don't want to pay a lot of money to move. I just had a client who spent $1,000 to move 1,000 books. I mean, he just wanted to keep the books, which I don't blame him. Books are wonderful, but you don't want to leave that to somebody else to have to make that decision. These were his own books. Helping people get organized. Where are your assets? Who are your beneficiaries? What are your account numbers? Who's your attorney? We do something called legacy planning. We try to get people in advance to be organized, and we have a 16-page document that we go through with them just to get them organized. So when the time comes, if their trustee needs to take care of business, everything is right there for them. That's the best case scenario. People think they're organized, but they're not. Almost nobody is organized. Not like they need to be in this kind of situation. I mean, nobody knows where your assets are. A lot of times people have their logins on their computer and that's where their assets are. Well, guess what? Nobody knows your logins. So that's not really helpful to them.
Yeah.
So
What if, and I'm only thinking about this because my cat is right here underneath me. What if you have a cat or any kind of pet? Are they considered assets? Do you set up a trust for them?
very good question.
Yeah.
So I think everybody should have a pet trust. So a pet trust means you're leaving a certain portion of your money towards your pet after you die. And you leave a whole list of everything. What did they eat? Who was their vet? What do you expect for grooming? Who do you want to care for them? We can act as pet trustee. We haven't yet, but we offer it to everybody. So you need a trustee to do the money, and you need a caregiver to do the caring and making sure that the pet gets everything you expect. But everybody should have a pet trust. I think they are considered assets, but they're no different than children, right? So anybody has a pet knows how great they are, and that you love them like a like a baby. So
Yes. Good. Good to know that that's an option.
yeah, absolutely.
Mhm. Well, you said something about people being prepared, before they die, but I feel like people, maybe especially like your grandparents or something like that, when you say, "Oh, do you have a will?" or "Can you clean up your mess because I don't want to clean up your mess when you die," kind of thing. A lot of I feel like maybe at least my grandparents are like, "Oh, so you're killing me off already. You want me to die, right?" How
Yeah.
how do you have that conversation with someone so it isn't feeling like you're like wanting them to die, if that makes sense?
Yeah. Well, okay, so that's a good question. So with my mom, who's still very much alive, thankfully, I used to go to her house and say, "Hey, let's go through your clothes." And, we would just go through her clothes every season and we would do piles of get rid of this and keep this and, donate this. And so we're always sort of going through her stuff with her. So when the time comes, it's not going to be as difficult. And she had a flood, which was such a blessing because I got rid of all the stuff in the basement all at one time. But I think if you can make it more of a, hey, let's spend some time together. Let's go through your books. Do you want to donate some of these? If you make it more of an activity and don't make it like, hey, I'm trying to get rid of your stuff so I don't have to do it later. because mostly people do not want the stuff that people leave behind. So people either fight ferociously over a painting or a book or a tiny little thing, or they want nothing, and they want nothing to do with the cleaning, nothing to do with the distribution, none of it. So mostly people just don't want the stuff.
Mm.
Or you could just say to them, hey, I love you very much, but I don't want to be mad at you after you die. So let's do it now. That's what I
I
would
have
say.
I have a coworker whose husband left her so many things and she got mad at him and threw him in a closet, and it's been 3 years and she still can't find him in that closet.
Yeah.
So I was mad at him and now I'm not, but I can't find him. Good point. I don't want to be mad at you when you're
Yeah.
gone.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because you
Yeah.
will be. And it's going to cost a lot of
Mhm.
money. You're going to have to pay
Yes.
movers and shredders. And we do a lot of going through people's papers. People save a lot of papers for some reason. And so they pay me to go through all their papers. And then they pay a shredder to go through all the, the shredding. And, it can get very costly to hold on to stuff. And I know it feels like we need to. It really does. I know. But get rid of it.
Yes, I know as a 25-year-old, I have 3 bookcases already.
Well, there you go.
So,
But you're young.
yeah,
So
thank you. Yes.
you have time.
Yes,
Read
to
it, then donate
read
it.
it
Read
and
it, then donate
read it and donate it.
it.
Yes.
Or get a
So
Kindle.
your Kindle's good.
Yeah.
So you said that your company is called Heirloom. Do you have a favorite heirloom that you've worked with or like was fought over?
I don't have one that I had a favorite, but
Okay.
I've seen families fight over a Bar Mitzvah book, a
Oh.
painting, what are some other things? Just some of the smallest things, like things that you really, where's that painting now? You know what I mean? At the
Mhm.
time, it was probably $30,000 in legal fees that you spent just fighting with your brother over this thing, right? And we worked on this one case where this man collected sports memorabilia and police badges and patches. And we had to go to police shows and sell badges and just like all these sports memorabilia things. And I'll tell you what, I learned a lot about a bunch of guy stuff. Thankfully, I had my sons with me. They work with me, so they know a lot about
Right.
sports. So that helps.
Okay.
But yeah, people love their stuff. I don't blame them. I don't have one that I had a favorite, but
Okay.
Yeah. So looking at your blog, The Uncomfortable Truth, or one title of your blog was The Uncomfortable Truth, Normalizing Conversations About Death. So you do say like a lot of things in the blog in regards to like probate. You mentioned it before. What does probate mean?
So probate means let's say you got an estate plan or you didn't get an estate plan. Let's say you got an estate plan and then you didn't title your assets. In other words, you didn't put a beneficiary on your life insurance. You didn't put your assets in your trust, those kind of things that would leave sort of a question mark to whose is it? Who's getting this asset, right? So when that happens, it has to go to probate court. And that's when you have to fill out some paperwork and potentially hire a lawyer to go to the probate court and represent, your situation. So then a personal representative or executor, depending on where you live, is nominated by the court or in the will, depending. And then the court decides who gets the items, or it goes by probate court rules, right? So we were talking about before, spouse first, then kids, then parents, siblings, like that kind of thing. So there's a court order of who would get what based on what state you're in. So the decision's out of your hands after you die, right? So if you didn't set it up in advance, then the probate court decides, and depending on where you live, somebody might not want to get your assets, could get your assets. Or let's say you got divorced and you forgot to change your beneficiary on your 401k and your ex-husband is the beneficiary. Well, you might want to go to probate court on that one. Or not you, because you're deceased, but your family, your kids, or somebody else might be fighting that. So there's different reasons you might have to go to probate court. Siblings are disagreeing. The will isn't clear. Different arguments and fights over a deed. A lot of times deeds are wrong. I've had a lot of experience with deeds being wrong. So it's all about the pre-planning. And if you pre-plan, then you don't have to bother with the court and the time and the money. It's expensive to go to court.
So how does your background in real estate and then paralegal estate planning help you with your current business? Like, you've kind of mentioned it, but how does it tie in?
Well, so a lot of times when somebody dies, they have a house. And with the house comes a bunch of personal property, and they need to clean out. They need to distribute all the assets in the house, the personal property, and the house needs to be sold. So we help to sell the house. We're real estate brokers too. It's all part of the offering. We do sort of this whole overview of anything you could possibly need in a trust administration. We either do it ourselves or we refer to a trusted source that will do it for us. So we're not movers, but we will contract a mover for you that we trust. So, but we do the real estate ourselves.
Whenever, I guess, people die, there's that pesky inheritance tax. Do you know about it and how IRS and like taxes and how it's involved in death?
In other words, death tax.
How does
So
that,
you're talking,
like, how does that affect like assets or like the family? Does it, even though the person has died, do they still have to like pay that, or how does it come out of assets?
it's different in every state. So where I live in Michigan, there's no inheritance tax. So if you inherit money here, there's no tax. And then there's the IRS, which is the estate tax. And every year it tends to seem to go up. And so right now it's close to $15 million per person. When you die, if you have assets of close to $15 million, you don't pay tax on it. And then your spouse as well, another roughly 15 million. So if that's the case, no tax, right? But if you make over 15 million, oh, poor baby, you got to pay 40% tax roughly. So not the worst thing in the world. It's 30 million free. But yeah, it does seem to keep going up. They talked about bringing it down to 5-6 million at one point, but that did not happen. It all depends on who's making the decisions, right? But yeah.
Yes.
And then there's also the gift tax. So you can give a gift to anybody you want, anytime, any day. And right now, I think it's 19,000 per person. So I could give it to my sons, I could give it to you and to my neighbor, and there's no tax on it. So there are some other loopholes you can use to provide tax-free life.
Yeah. It's the only way that I'm getting like the deed of a car transferred over.
Yeah.
is through that gift tax.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's a big savings.
So can you also talk about your nonprofit Scores for Kids?
Oh yeah, that was fun. So I worked for a bank, Washington Mutual Bank. I don't know if you guys are kind of young. I don't know if you remember that bank, but during the financial recession, this bank closed overnight and I lost my job. And I was so lost, didn't know what to do with myself. Me and my kids are like, oh my God, we can't even eat. What are we going to do? It's a pretty bad time. And so I noticed that my kids couldn't play hockey anymore because we couldn't afford it. And I thought, you know what, we have all this equipment, might as well give it to somebody else who can use it and, they can stay active. And I just put my kids in baseball, like a cheaper sport. It didn't require all the equipment. So we started a charity, Score for Kids, that we went around collecting gently used sports equipment, and we started giving it to kids who needed it. And then we collected fees and helped them pay for their fees and really got people through the recession, keeping their kids active. And I think that's really important to keep kids running around and having fun, even when their parents are struggling. And then we started working with organizations, and it was really, really a fun time. So They
They-
recommend doing a charity. You don't make any
Good.
money, but it's a lot of fun. You meet very interesting people. I often will find unclaimed property for people. And this one lady, I found 36 different entries for her mother where she had all this money that nobody ever collected. And I promise you, it was over $250,000.